Hi and welcome to Distilling in Australia. My name is Nick and today we're going to be talking about when A plus B does not equal C. Now if you just happen to stumble across this channel and this is the first time you've seen it, if you find the content interesting, all I ask you to do is to press the subscribe button and like, which helps the channel out enormously. But if you can do that, it costs you nothing, but it does help me out. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it if you would do that. So for those who have been following the channel, this is episode 15, I believe, or video 15. You will know that obviously I'm waiting for my still and fermenter to arrive. So whilst I'm doing that and waiting for the distiller the still and the fermenter to arrive, I've been working on a couple of the requirements for reporting to the tax office. And this comes under question 37, which is a question about how you intend to keep records of what you do, and also relates as a result of that, question 28, which is being able to accurately determine your fills in your containers. So they sort of go hand in hand. So these questions have come up, or these issues have come up as I've been working through my Excel spreadsheet. And I do have my Excel spreadsheet here that I'm working on, and at the end of this part of the video I will actually be going through the Excel spreadsheet. So if you want to skip through all the technical stuff, by all means go through to the end and you'll see Excel spreadsheet and you can watch what I've done to date. But before we get into that, as always, here's 5 seconds of your life you're never going to get back. Okay, now before we get started, I'm going to be doing a lot of figures and formulas and equations and that sort of stuff. And look, this is all approximate, okay? So it's not down to the nth degree of accuracy. It is close enough for our purposes, or close enough for my purposes, a micro distiller. Some would actually call me a nano distiller, for the volumes that I'm looking to do. But so when I want to talk about figures, just mentally put the word approximately in front of everything that I go through today. And I'm going to try and keep it reasonably straightforward, but there are some technical elements that I want to go through. So I just want to explain my philosophy, and it's basically I'm going to be selling all my products at a 40% ABV. So no matter what I produce, it's all going to be at a 40% ABV. Now, the reason for that is quite deliberate. It's because in Australia, one standard drink is 10 grams of ethanol. So for every 10 grams of ethanol you consume, you're consuming one standard drink. Now, as it happens, 12 grams of ethanol is equivalent to 12.668 milliliters of ethanol. So it's not one-to-one, and I'll explain that a bit later. So if you take 12.668 milliliters of pure ethanol and you dilute it down to a 40% ratio, it means that 12.668 mils of ethanol is equivalent to 31.67 mils of finished product at 40% ABV. Now 31.67 mils is close enough to 30 mils, which is basically comes down to one standard 30 mil shot is equivalent to one standard drink at 40%. And that's why I'm going to market and sell all my products at the 40%, because then everyone will know that one shot, one drink, and that makes it easier. Now, it also means that in one 1 litre bottle, which again, I'm going to be selling all my products in 1 litre bottles. So one 1 litre bottle is close enough to 32 shots. Okay, so it's a little bit more than that, but for the sake of this exercise, you're going to get 32 shots out of a 1 litre bottle at 40%. So that's 32 standard drinks in a 1 litre bottle. And that's how I've worked out exactly what I'm going to do in terms of the volume to ABV. I just think it makes logical sense, and it just makes it a lot easier for the consumer to keep track of what they're drinking. And this is about responsible drinking and being able to enjoy a drink and being able to keep track of what you're drinking, which for a lot of us is difficult. I'm drinking tea, by the way. Yeah, it's not alcohol, no. So, anyway, so I want to move on to how you achieve this. Now, obviously when we're distilling, the product that comes out of the still is a lot higher ABV than 40%. So we have to cut that product down to the 40%. And for most of us, for me, if I am storing my product, I'm aiming to store it at around about 63%. So if I'm storing it at 63% on wood, it's it's a good ratio for getting the flavors out of the barrels and maturing the products. So it's sort of a fairly common sort of like 55 to 63% seems to be a fairly common sort of range that most people will age their products on wood. But it just means that you've got less bulk at 63% than you do at 40%. So you then have to water down your 63% or cut your 63% so then you can bottle at the 40%. Now there is a formula that enables you to do that. And yes, I'm using my cheat notes again because I can't remember all this off the top of my head, but these just help me keep track of where I'm going. So let's just use a hypothetical. So assuming you had 10 litres of alcohol at 63%, and you want to dilute it down to 40%. So the formula to work out how much water you need to add is your 63% multiplied by your 10 litres of alcohol, divide that by 40, and then deduct 10. And then you end up with 5.75 litres of water that you need to add to your 10 litres of 63%. So if you add that, you should get, 10 litres plus 5.75 litres is 15.75 litres of finished product, right? Well, no, actually wrong. If you actually do that ratio and dilute it in those percentages, you'll actually end up with a net volume of 15.293 litres. So you're losing around about 400 or 500 mils of product in that particular equation. Now, just to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to break it down to a 1 litre bottle. So if you had a 1 litre bottle or you wanted to produce a 1 litre bottle of finished product, and you say, okay, well, if I had 635 mils, now again, using this formula, if I had 635 mils of alcohol at 63% and I poured that into my bottle, then I think, okay, now I need to add 365 mils of water to that. So you add your 365 mils of water and you think, okay, I have now 1 litre of finished product, okay, which is fair enough. 635 mils plus 365 mils equals 1,000 mils, 1 litre. But in actual fact, you end up with 970 mils of finished product because you have lost 29 mils. Now, it hasn't just disappeared, okay? It hasn't gone off and it hasn't evaporated or whatever. It's a phenomenon known as contraction. And what happens is, and I'm not going to get into the whole chemistry of the thing, but effectively what happens is when you mix the alcohol and water, there are molecules in the alcohol that fit between the water molecules. So therefore, rather than getting the net value of the two sums, you lose some through contraction. So in a 1 litre bottle, you lose 29 mils. So in that particular case, 2.9% or 3% roughly. So when it comes to commercial operations, you need to take that into consideration. Now, the impact of that is that if you had or thought you had 1,000 mils and you're reporting to the tax office in your excise tax return, and you say, okay, well, I've got this bottle, it's 1,000 mils because I've done 635 plus 365, so that's 1,000 mils, and it's at 40%, and I'm paying $87.68 per litre, so that's 0.4 by 87.68. So the tax on that 1 litre of bottle, my calculation would be $35.07. But in actual fact, what you've got is you've got 971 mils of alcohol at 40%. So that's 0.3384 litres of alcohol at the same rate, 87.68, which means the actual tax would be $34.05. So for every litre, or supposed litre, that you think you are distributing, you're actually paying $1.02 in tax more than what you should in terms of excise tax. So yeah, that 2.9%, $1 a bottle. Now you might think, okay, well that's not a lot, but over the course of a year, that's, well, for me, $5,000. I mean, that's a significant amount of money. Now, that's one aspect, but the other aspect, which I think is probably more important, is that for every 1 litre that you are supposedly selling, and you're only really actually selling 971 because you haven't taken contraction into consideration, you're actually robbing your consumer of close enough to 1 standard drink, it doesn't matter, per bottle. So instead of 32 standard drinks, you've got 31 standard drinks. So, these are the things that, the little things that can make a difference. And of course, you'll get caught out on that eventually because the tax office has a variance rate of 1.5%. So for every litre of alcohol or mixed finished product that you distribute, you have a 15 mil buffer, for argument's sake. So that's not a lot, okay? It's half a shot. Half a shot is your buffer that the tax office will give you when in discrepancy between what you say you are bottling and what you are bottling. So yeah, there's not a lot of room there to make the error. So you have to be pretty accurate in what you're doing. So that brings us on to question 28. And so how do you measure accurately your volume in your bulk containers, which is a very valid and important question to be able to answer. And the answer, as it so happens, is that it's done by weight. Now, alcohol at different percentages of ABV has a different what's called specific density or weight or mass. Okay, same word, different terminology, same meaning, but basically alcohol and water will weigh different amounts at different ratios. Simple as that. So for argument's sake, let's say you had a timber barrel and you put that timber barrel on a set of scales and the timber barrel weighs 26.5 kilograms. And this is just the example I'm doing here, okay? And you think, okay, well, this is supposedly a 200 litre barrel. Okay, so you think, okay, well, it's a 200 litre barrel, so, it should have 200 kilograms. But when you actually do the calculation, if that barrel was in actual fact full with 200 litres at 63%, you think, okay, well, what would it weigh full? So 63% alcohol, ABV, weighs 0.88417 grams per litre, okay? So how do I know this? Well, basically there are tables, and they're in the spreadsheet, and you'll see those later. But there are tables that are available. They're commonly available. You can find them anywhere. Governments put them out, and they give you all the ratios, percentages, and up down to 0.1 of a percent, and it tells you the specific density of alcohol by weight or by volume. So a litre of alcohol weighs different to a kilogram of alcohol, even though theoretically 1 litre of water weighs 1 kilogram. It doesn't actually quite weigh that, but it's close enough that it doesn't matter. So to do the maths, if you had 200 litres of product at 63%, multiply that by 0.88417 kilograms, that 200 litres would actually weigh 176.83 kilograms. Now then you add on your empty weight of your container, which is 26.5 kilograms in this particular example, which means that that particular container full with 200 litres of 63% would actually weigh 203.34 kilograms. And that's how you can determine accurately the volume within a container. And that's really the safest way to do it. You just weigh your container empty, fill it up, take your level of reading at 20 degrees Celsius, that's your ABV, multiply that by your specific density, and then you can work out exactly how much is in that product, how many litres in that product, and then by that you can deduct how much LAL you have, which is of course your pure ethanol, and that's what you're paying your tax on. All right, so it just enables you to keep track of your tax liability in case anything untoward happens. Okay, so I just wanted to move on to the again, the theory of what I'm trying to achieve, and having all this in mind, I sort of segueing a bit here, but I was looking at how I wanted to price my products, and as I said, I want my products to be consumed. I want them to be enjoyed. I don't want people to get my products and stick it on the shelf or in the cupboard somewhere to be forgotten about. It's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I like a drink myself, and I've been a rum drinker all my life. I do drink beer and all that sort of stuff occasionally, but I just prefer rum and a good gin. That just happens to be my thing. So I want to sort of convey that in the way that I market or sell my products. So I thought, okay, well, how do I determine my cost point on my particular product? So I crunched some numbers, and I thought, okay, I'm going to compare my product at 40% against, for argument's sake, a light beer. So if I take I thought, okay, well, what would be a good price to sell it? And I'm sort of thinking around about $60. So I just thought, okay, I'll just use $60 per 1 litre bottle. And I know that a lot of artisan distillers are selling a lot more than that, some up to twice that amount because of the type of product they're producing, and that's fine. That's I don't have a problem with that. Good luck to them if they can do it. That's a great place to be in if you have that reputation, that quality of product. So a 1 litre bottle, as I said before, at 40% is 32 standard drinks. Now, if I sold that at $60 a bottle, it actually works out at $1.87.5 per standard drink in a 1 litre bottle. That's $60 a bottle. So I thought, okay, well, how does that compare to, say, a light beer? Now, I just thought, okay, I'll try Hahn Light. I happen to like Hahn Light, so I thought, okay, well, I'll work that one out. Now, Hahn Light has a alcohol content of 2.4%. So one stubby of Hahn Light is 0.7 of a standard drink. So 0.7 by 24 bottles means that there's 16.8 standard drinks in a carton of Hahn Light. Okay, no problems. So I got onto Dan Murphy's and I had a look at their website, and on this particular day I looked at it. They were selling Hahn Light at $39.90 per carton. So $39.90, divide that by 16.8 standard drinks, means that the cost per standard drink on beer, light beer, was $2.37.50. So it actually worked out cheaper at $60 a bottle per standard drink to buy my products as it would about buying a commercial beer. So I know which one I would prefer. Now, of course, obviously, if there's a mixer on top of that, you've got to add that to the cost of the drink. But to all intents and purposes, at $60 a bottle, my particular products are no more expensive than drinking light beer. So I thought that was a pretty good price point to be aiming at, which is that $60 per 1 litre bottle at 40%. So that's really all the sort of figures that I want to go through. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you my spreadsheet, and you'll need to bear with me on this one. And I'm just going to show you what I've done. Now, the spreadsheet is under development, okay? So it's not finished by any stretch of the imagination. Now, what I've done is that the tax office puts out a document, and it's called Records for Distilleries, and it sets out the minimum requirement that we need to have for reporting to the tax office. And so if they come in and audit you and go through your records, they can track what you're producing, where it's being fermented, how it's being distilled, your end product, and your bottle. So they can go through your data, and they can track it and make sure that what you're actually saying that you're doing, you're actually doing it all, and it adds up. So this document is quite a few pages long. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages of it. Okay, so as you can see, I don't know if you can or not, but as I go through it, I tick off the requirements of what I've done. So most of it's been ticked off. I haven't finished it yet, and I've got to work on the formulas. But for those of you who are interested, here is the Excel spreadsheet as it is so far. And hey, if there's any Excel gurus out there that want to get involved and help out, by all means. I'm not precious on this stuff. As I keep saying, I'm no guru. I'm not pretending that I know it all. I'm just a normal bloke going through the process. So we'll get started onto it, and let's have a look at the spreadsheet. Okay, so here we go. So this is the spreadsheet. Now, what I've done, sorry, I'm just having a drink of my tea. Okay, so what I've done here is that I'm trying to get my spreadsheet into one book. So you see down here we have all the different tabs along the bottom here. So in relation to the tax office, what I've done is I've just gone through it in each section as they have required. So in the first section is your raw produce register. So the date you get it in, the invoice number, the supplier, and we have a drop-down list here so I can pick different suppliers, the type of product, and again a drop-down list for all the different products that you can select, the quantity, the unit, what you paid for it, and the unit. Now that's just a way of then being able to say, okay, well, you've got in so much molasses, and you've got in so much sugar, and you've got in so much grain, or whatever it is that you buy, and it keeps a rolling record of those things. And of course, there'll be a pivot table or something like that over there that will add up the amounts. So then you have your fermentation recipes, and I call them FR 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, please, these are not recipes. All I've done here is I've put in just information just to check how it's going in terms of getting drop-down lists and those sorts of things. So your fermentation recipe, so I'm going to call it an agricole. So agricole's made out of juice, might be 80 litres plus 10 kilograms of raw sugar, plus yeast, nutrients and yeast. So whatever the recipe might be, and of course, as I said, this is not a recipe. but it's just a way of just setting out what it is. It is a alcohol, a rum, a neutral, a gin, for argument's sake. It might be a gin, and I might do a white sugar or dark sugar, raw sugar mixed with that. So there's all sorts of options here, but that's just so as I have a constant record, and then I know what I'm using consistently in all my recipes. So the E recipes is essence. So here it's what is it? It's going to be an infusion. Am I going to use a thumper, or is it going to be an essence? So infusion means you use a gin basket, for argument's sake, with a citrus profile. You might use a thumper in a rum recipe for a Jamaican style, or you might add an essence to an agricole to make it a spice profile. So again, in here you'll be detailing the different types of products that you're using to create that essence that you're going to add to the flavour. So the next one here is your stock. So obviously, as you have your products, you can put them down here. So it keeps a tally of what you received, what you've used, and what's on hand, and there'll be other few tiers with costs and those sorts of things. Then we move on to fermentation, and so here we have the batch number, which recipe that I'm going to use, what type it is, what quantity, the start date. Oops, sorry. Okay. All right. So the fermentation record. So fermentation background. So when you're doing a fermentation, you've got here the batch number, the recipe, what type it is, how many litres. When you start to ferment, the fermenter that you're using. So if you have multiple fermenters, what pH level you start, your oxygen level, your starting gravity, your starting temperature, your end date, and your end gravity, which then gives you your ABV or potential ABV. So for argument's sake, if I started at 1.078, for argument's sake, it will change the ABV, potential ABV, to 8.13%, or in this particular case, for 135 litres, 10.979 litres. So then you move on, you say, okay, well, out of that fermented batch, you're going to lose about 5 litres of products. So still one, it leaves 130 litres that we'll be charging the still number one with. That just gives me about 10.57 litres of alcohol potential. So then we move on to distilling. So the date of the distilling, the D date, the D batch, the fermenter it came from, so you can change to a storage vessel or the fermenter where it came from, the source number, the volume, what type of spirit it is, the still LAL, and which still number it's going in, and of course the reflux, if it's reflux or a different type of like pot still or whatever. And then of course the volumes that we get back in methanol, where we store, and then what the LAL is in the heads, right through. Then it goes into the hearts over there, and then finally your tails or faints. So it keeps records of where all your splits are going, and in what containers, and what the ABV is for those particular products or particular stages of the distilling run. Then we move on to storage. So this is the bulk storage volume. So each storage vessel is numbered. I just call them SV 1 through to 18 at the moment. What there is, what type of products in it, the volume going in, the volume going out, and the net volume in each one, what the ABV is, and of course the amount of LAL, litres of pure ethanol. Is it excisable, which is yes, and then the tax liability, which is 11,047 for that particular volume of that one. So it's important to have that information. Now we move on to spillage. Now we must record spillage. So the spillage is the date of the spillage, the batch number, the time it happened, how much volume in litres and the ABV and how much you are claiming in L, and then of course your emission that you claim back from the tax office for that spillage, and of course you have to put some comments and details in about that. So that's the spillage. Now the actual vessels themselves. So this goes back to the weight of the vessels and accurately determining your fills. So the vessel, the type, the empty weight, the volume if known, what you're using it for, and the type of product that you've got in the vessels. You'll notice I have muck and dunder listed here as well. Now, dunder and muck are two different things, and I'll talk about that in another video. So then we move on to transfers. So we must record when we're transferring, because sometimes you need to transfer between storage vessels. So date, time from, the start weight, the finish weight, the ABV, and the adjusted volume. This will be, of course, all done on weight. Then to whichever vessel you're moving it into, again, start weight, finish weight, the blended ABV, and then, of course, the adjusted net volume according to weight. So that's all the storage transfers. Then we go into the retail packaging. So the date of the packaging, we've got to keep track of all this. From which storage vessel, the type of product it is, so neutral spirit, the ABV, the volume, and the density at 1,000 mils at 63%. So, sorry, 40%, sorry, that's the volume. And then we add the volume of grams for the alcohol and the volume of grams for water to get you 40%, and then we move on to, once we determine all that, then we can then add the essences. So, you know, depends on what type of product that you're looking at as to the essences that we are going to do. And of course, the 935.18 grams specific density is the weight of the 1,000 mils at 40%. Then you have all your spices and everything else that goes on top of that, as I've just said. Sorry, I've moved on. Okay, and then the data list. So I'm using master data lists for all my data, so as I can change it. So I can put in the suppliers and keep changing that and adding to that. The stills, the fermenters. So any of the drop-down lists that I'm using, this is the master of where I'm getting that information from. And of course the master of the excise duty tax, which is 87.68. And below here, these are the tables that I was talking about earlier. These are the tables that relate to the specific density of ethanol. This first one is by volume. So 1 litre is 0.96. And the other one is by weight, so 40% is 0.94805 grams by volume. If it's by weight, this one's by weight, so 40%, 1 kilogram is 0.93518 litres. So they're the tables that I was referring to before. When accurately determining your fills and working out what it is that you are going to, or how you're going to mix your ratios to get the proper rate. So that really is about it. That's just a work in progress. As I said before, it's nowhere near finished. We have a long way to go, but it's a work in progress, and I hope to get to the end of it fairly soon. I just got news today that my still will be ready on the 22nd of June to be shipped. So just thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Keep safe, keep legal, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao for now. Distilling alcohol is illegal in Australia unless you hold the appropriate licenses and permits. I am not a lawyer, and the contents of this video are not intended to be legal advice. Do not rely on any information contained in this video and seek your own legal professional advice before making any decisions. Be aware, the Australian Tax Office and the local law enforcement agencies will be taking interest in this channel due to its content. Please keep this in mind before posting any comments. Any comments posted are the opinion of the person posting and not of this channel. Let's get started.